I killed my monkey. I let it out too, and taste the sweet of spring.
We're in Cornwall. This is the control room at Martian Engineering, and this is where we've been compiling the box set and where I've made quite a few records in the last many years. As of now, I'm calling it a piano because the piano has been the most important creature in my life. I guess more than anything as far as a musical being, more than anything. I think I know pretty much what's on it. Because I have another few weeks, things can change, which is always fun. Those last minute changes are usually good, or I regret for the rest of my life, but I have a feeling that it will benefit the box. I've tried to compile many different compositions in style, not just the most popular ones. Of course, I've included a lot of those because I'm not immune to people liking what I do. I wanted to make, with the early stuff, a historical record. With some of the later stuff, I sort of felt like we can play with history a bit, because if it's something Mark Marcel and I did, which are on the later records, and we have a better mix that we could produce now, then we kind of did. So we fiddled with time a little bit. And because we mixed it originally, we felt that we had the right to do that. The first two records, Little Earthquakes and Under the Pink, some of the mixes haven't survived time and being carted around. You lose information, as we know, on those old masters. Therefore, there are other mixes that might have happened 2 hours later or the day before that have been protected in the vaults. And we would sit, Mark Marcel, John Astley, and myself, and as a team of four, we would, I think, objectively listen. And so we've been able to find alternate mixes for quite a lot. I'd say half and half of the earlier work that just, it sparkles more. And you can go back to the original records for the original mixes, but these mixes took place in that time frame.
I know what you think of me, you never shut up.
I forget a lot. I forget more than I thought I did. And Mark he's one of the engineers of Mark and Marcel. He has jetted around, and not in a, groovy Gulfstream jet or anything like that, but he's gone, I was almost like pub crawling. So master tape crawling all over the world, because with the breakdown in the record companies, well, I have heard that you can find master tapes under people's beds in dormitories, because it's become sort of like the sacking of Rome by the Gauls. It's similar to that. And so some things have been preserved. The Warner tape library is quite good, but because part of my career happened in England, anything that got mixed over here, Well, your guess was as good as ours where those tapes were.
I said sometimes I hear my voice and it's been here, silent all these years ago.
Well, there's one that was supposed to go on Pele, and it was talked about it being the single. But I got so pissed off at the record company because they wanted me to change it to make it more commercial. And it was at the harpsichord, and they wanted me to take the harpsichord off. I guess I've had a reputation for being difficult. And if you're the songs, you will think that I'm a good, ferocious lioness. If you're the record company, you're gonna think I'm a bitch. It's called Sucker Reprise. That's what we called it, fondly known as Walk to Dublin. And it was going to be, I think, possibly the first single on Pele if I had agreed to changing it. Well, I didn't agree, so I told Mark to hide it and make it go away and make me forget about it. And the thing is, I forgot about it. And we mixed it. We didn't even mix it then. We mixed it in 1998 because I needed B-sides desperately for Choir Girl. And once I heard it after they mixed it, I said, well, I'm not giving this away as a B-side. And so then I forgot about it again. And so now this little song has made its way on, but how I originally wanted it. When I turned in Little Earthquakes, it was rejected. And I remembered the comment being almost word for word, this might work if you take all the pianos off and we replace them with guitars.
My mittens, wipe my nose, get my new boots on.
The piano in this time of early grunge music coming out of the 80s, it wasn't a popular choice at the time. And it's kind of really pleasing to see that the piano now is being used by a lot more people and is accepted within contemporary music, not as a pariah or something that is uncool or classical or jazz.
When you gonna love you as much as I do?
Having to fight for this instrument was a trial for me. That was my kind of rite of passage for me to be able to even tour with it and stand by it. I needed to kind of prove my loyalty to it, and I had to value it in myself. Because if any of the pianos are touched, then I won't be around to support the record because I won't stand beside my work being ripped apart like that. That was the beginning of me really claiming that instrument, not just on a musician level, but a deep soul level publicly. Sometimes I think the reason people are drawn to an artist's music is the subject matter or the sound. Sometimes you you hit upon something that's going on culturally, and you line up together. I think it can be just synchronicity. And then I think there are people that are there because they are drawn to the compositions themselves. They really they love music and are open to people that are experimenting. There are some people that only like what they like, and because they don't like something, they think it means it's not good. And I'm at a place where just because I don't like something doesn't mean it's not brilliant. And so I think that you get all kinds of different reasons why people will come to a show. You can't write music for the masses. I don't think that is what a wise composer does, because composers that do that invariably are popular in that day and time. It's really about pushing yourself and growing as a composer, and maybe your work doesn't get really embraced at that moment. You can't be seduced by that, or you'll compromise on the work. The songs, they take over my being. They walk in the room. They have an easier time finding me when there's not so much distraction. I'll dream that I've written this work, and I've written the whole thing. Everything. The arrangements, the chord changes, the lyrics, it's finished. And I'll wake up and I can't remember a thing. And that's the thing that drives me crazy, is because then that would mean that they exist already complete on some level. And what I'm just trying to do is be the scribe and bring these creatures to life in a form that people can hear and see. Being a composer and staying prolific, I don't know if there's a formula for it. There's a time when being in LA, I should say, for me, when being at the bottom of the food chain in the 80s was very inspirational, because you're on the outside looking in. And I don't really know if I would want to be on the inside. And I think as a composer, when you're at the bottom of the food chain, there's something quite glorious about it, because you use all of that, not being included feeling to find your own path. When you're established, it's far more dangerous being in a place where you can get in through the front door. And that's because there is a strange hypnotic rhythm that can happen when you get into a comfortable situation as a composer. You can stop observing because you know it all. And you think, you've achieved something that you were working so hard to achieve. So once I stopped being on the bottom of the food chain, I split. You can find resolution for these conflicts, but without a fad of what's happening in London, New York, or LA, that can maybe make you as a composer do something that you will regret in 18 months' time. So as a producer, I've tried to bring forth in this maybe 80 song or around that box set, things that you couldn't get from the records that you loved because you don't have access to those vaults. And we've been able to we've remastered everything. And we've remixed a couple things, particularly two things from Choir Girl that I felt could benefit from today's technology because they were more from the electronica period of my experimentation than my acoustic period. I mean, I have to really dismiss the musician, the performer sometimes when we're making decisions because it's just too raw for her to hear that we don't have it, especially if she's reached inside and tried to get this master take, and you've got the other musicians here who've gotten their takes, say bass and drums, and the keyboard player hasn't quite gotten it yet. And right now, I guess you're talking more to the composer than anybody else because the composer doesn't go out and perform, doesn't really go to parties, doesn't find any of that very fascinating. The performer, on the other hand, is likes those endorphins that you get when you're performing. And it's a great high. And the performer, though, however, doesn't have the patience and the discipline to edit and rewrite so that the compositions need to be what they are so that then she can go play them. There was a song called 0 Point, and it's about 8 minutes. And we were recording this for the Venus. It was a dual CD release of live and then original tracks. And because we had another song that was also 8 minutes, I needed to make a choice because I was running out of time. And only because I was having such an argument about my garden with my dad, about what went into my garden, did the song about my garden end up on the Venus record. So it wasn't because we didn't think that 0 Point was worthy. It's really about the marriage of the acoustic piano world and the electronic keyboard world. It's something that I really think is one of the best things we did out of the Choir Girl Venus period for the marriage of those two polar opposite keyboard expressions. And Matt Chamberlain played on it, as well as Andy Gray, a programmer at the time. So it had that mixture of electronic drums as well as acoustic. And I think that it's held up. I just heard it for the first time a few weeks ago, and after many years, and we mixed it, and it made it. I fell down to the ground. looking at visual artists, mainly because going to a different medium means that you can apply it to your own without lifting, without stealing. I'll immerse myself at a distance of another pianist or composer, but I would go to the visual medium a lot in order to be pushed and to maybe get some inspiration even. And so I've tried to bring that to my own presentation. How we present things visually has always been, it's not just something that you have to do. It's been, wow, we get this opportunity now to bring the visuals in with the sonic. And so I've always tried to pull in photographers and team people who are on the visual side. We go into the idea of another team, that you collaborate with people and come up with something that we think works with what the sonic message is at the time. Well, I'm excited because you get this groovy little keyboard with this. We're gonna get a keyboard. It's more than an octave. And it doesn't press down because that's just too complicated. And if somebody breaks one, then they'll get all upset. So this way you open it. I wanted you to feel the piano before you get the music. I wanted you to have to touch it in some way to make it real for you. And then you get the booklet, and then you get the 5 discs of, well, I'm not quite sure what you're gonna get yet, but almost 80 compositions. If you have a generation that is more interested in fluff, then they probably won't be very drawn to what I do, and they'll roll their eyes at it, and you know. But if you have a generation that likes to find hidden trapdoors sonically and is open to a structure that might be different from song to song, then that's when you find the younger generation coming your way. But I don't necessarily think it depends on me doing something different. I think I've tried to stay pretty consistent, which is always exploring something. That doesn't mean I'm exploring anger every time or nurturing every time. It's different every time. And I think that when you get a group of people that like composers that explore, and to take them on a red carpet, magic carpet ride, then they'll show up. But if they don't want that, then they won't. But that can't change what you do.
And he isn't you. No one's picking up the phone, 'cause it's clear he's gone. And this little masochist